Let's just start out with what is a dropdown. So let me go ahead and add one right here. So I'll just right click on here and we'll just go straight to dropdown. And so the default is a dropdown like this. It has an option 1, option 2. We can set these to whatever we want. So we do dropdown 1 and dropdown 2. You can click done and I immediately have a dropdown like this. I can select the option that I want. So I can always add another one here, drop down 3, and now I have that option available as well. So if I want to add it to more than just one cell, I can drag it down. Now notice if I have something selected in there, it's doing all kinds of goofy. So I'm going to go ahead and delete these real quick here. So if I click on the cell and hit delete, and now I can just drag it down as well if I want to. You can see those same options are still available. So another thing I can do here, so this is, I added down here, but I don't have it down here. So the way to do it from here would be to drag this down. And again, if you have something selected, it kind of messes up. Also with just numbers, otherwise it's going to drag down the same value. So let me go ahead and just demonstrate that real quick. If I just do something like this, cold, warm, and hot. And then if I just do it now, you can see this is applying only to C2. If I want to apply to the rest of the range, right now I'm down through 18. I'm just going to do that real quick just to demo this. Cold, warm, hot. So if I click warm in here, so if I drag this down without the number at the end, then it's just going to repeat that. I just want to show you how that worked real quick. If we want to add it to the whole column, so now that we have it here, we could just do this, get rid of that 18 at the end, and then it goes down the whole row. All right, so let's look at what it takes to add something from scratch for an entire column. So I like to just click on, for example, here, C, and then if you hold down Control and click on that top one, now we have everything but the top cell selected. And now we can right click, drop down, and add drop downs, and so forth. So you can see now that that applied to your range is there. If you already have one in there, and so for example, go back to where we were, like this, where it's just 18. Quickest probably from here is if we click on here, click on the edit button, and then we can just do this like this and get it to fill all the way down. All right, so let me actually undo this real quick. I want to show you from scratch how to delete something. This data drop down. So if you need to delete it, go ahead and click on this edit button. And again, you want to make sure you select, if we just do remove rule here, we're only doing it on that top one. You can see that rule is still there. So you can delete it from here, and that goes like that. Let me undo this real quick. If we go back to here, if we go like this, click that edit button. Now if I just add colon and C, remove rule, then it adds the whole thing. So there's a couple ways to do it. You can either delete it from here or select and delete it from the entire range. All right, so that's how to add and delete a dropdown. So let's look at the different types of dropdowns. So we'll go back to dropdown here. So we have dropdown. If we go to advanced options, we have several different things. So first of all, we have what happens if we have an option that isn't the same. So show a warning or reject the input. So let me show you real quick what happens with that. So option 1, option 2. So let's say we type something in here, option 3. So in this case, it lets me add it, but you can see now I have a warning, input must be an item on the specified list. So if I click something there, then that disappears. So if we change this to reject the input, if I go back here and then try to do option 4, it tells me I cannot enter that. It does not let me enter that value. So that's one difference that happens there in between the data invalid, whether it's show warning or reject input. The other part is whether you have a chip, which is this style, an arrow, which is like this, or plain text, which actually doesn't show it at all unless you double click. So if you double click, it shows options. Otherwise, it doesn't look like a drop down at all. So that's the different options that there are for display styles. And finally, real quick, you can click on show help text. And so you can say, select an option or something like this, or maybe something that you want the user to know. And so now if you click on this and try to do option 3, it says select an option. All right. So now that we've seen these different options, if you can tell, the chip, it can be a little goofy, and so I'm not always a big fan of the chip, and here's the reason why. So if I'm trying to type something in here, for example, it seems a little goofy, and then if you're trying to like delete, for example, you have to click on it outside of this chip or it gets kind of weird. So maybe your mileage will vary. Some people like the chips. Personally, I'm a bigger fan of the arrows. I think just a little cleaner, but your mileage may vary. You may like the chips. There are some things with chips that do make it easier, but we'll get into that in a minute. We're going to go into background color. But first of all, we're going to go back to drop down from a range versus a regular drop down. So what is the difference? So when we do this drop down criteria, we have to populate a list in here. And so I could set cold, warm, and hot. But if I want to add something else, I have to go back in here and add that here. So if we go drop down from a range, we can actually select a range. So we could do this range here. And now we have those actually showing up like this. So if we go back, now we have all those showing up from this tab over here. And so now if we have a new drop down, I can just add it as text over here. It shows up automatically over here in our drop down. So I find this is a better way to manage drop down lists if you can. And so you can see here I have different options, and we'll go through building those here in a moment. So another thing to look at is that on these drop downs, you can select conditional formatting to go with it. So for this initial contact, for example, we could do green, or maybe this color here. For cold, we could do like light blue. For warm, I'll just add these real quick here. There we go. And now, based on what I select, we're automatically highlighting in that color. And so let me just show you real quick what this looks like if we do a chip. And so that's how it looks when we do a chip. You can see that color actually immediately when you do the pop-up. So I think this is the reason why some people like chips, is because of this color feedback there when they do that. Because when you go back to an arrow, you're only seeing that color once you select. So some people, the color helps them select where they want to go. All right, so let's look at adding this to the entire row here, or I'm sorry, the entire column, just like that. And now we can select our statuses for the different people, just like that. And so let me just look at just adding real quickly, drop down here from a range. And so I actually got that backwards. I have status right now. Let's do lead source. We'll do status again, and then I'll show you how to fix that one. So there's our status, and this one needs to be lead source. So let me go ahead and edit this one. So I'm going to make sure I select the whole thing, and then I'm just going to, I can actually edit it right here. So lead source is C. So I'm just going to change it to C, and there we go. So now we can select those email lead sources, trade show, and website. Now we got our statuses here. So we can still change these again. If we go here, let's go to data validation. You can see all our roles here. So let me add this agent name, and then we'll do something here. So drop down from a range and agent name. And let's do an arrow there as well. So we can see these data validation rules. Let's go to here, modify this one to an arrow. Maybe change these to our colors as well. All right, So now we can select all of our different phases. Just like that. You can select agent names. One thing to note as well, and this can be very useful, is when you do a drop down, you can actually start typing and see what matches that criteria. And so if I hit P, it shows me everything with P in it, and the more I type, it restricts the options. So this makes it very easy to select things, whether it's names or products, and that works very well in that way. All right, so the final thing I want to do here before we call it quits in this video is I want to show you sometimes you have a list like this, right? Where you're going to have a standard list. Sometimes you have something where like I'm entering maybe apple, orange, etc. But I don't want to have to type the whole thing each time. But I don't want to have to go to a separate tab to manage that list. So basically I want a drop down, but I don't want a separate tab where I have to enter these things. So what we're going to do here is an interesting hack that helps you to merge both. So we're going to use a feature here. So let me just add apple and orange here, for example. So on this drop downs, so you do need a separate tab for this, but you don't need to go back to this tab. So I'm going to use a filter formula, and I'm just going to filter this where this is not null, and then I'm just going to do a unique on that. So I want to get the unique values in apple and orange. And actually, I'm going to do a sort as well. So we have apple, orange. Actually, come to think of it, I probably don't need this filter. We'll just get rid of that filter and just do that sort unique, just like that. So if I add something new, for example, pear, you can see now it shows up in that list. So let's get rid of that pear for a moment. Let's add a rule here for that drop down. I want to apply to the whole thing. And then let's do drop down from a range. And so you're probably thinking, wait, isn't this what we just did? We're going to show you in a second what we're going to do to make this different. So I'm going to go back down to here to arrow. So here's the more important thing to do here is if the data is invalid, we want to show a warning. So we don't want to reject it, we want to show a warning. And you'll see why here in a second. So apple, orange, right? So we have apple or orange. So what happens if we want to enter pear now? So I can type in pear, and you can see it actually lets me type it in and submit it, and now it shows up. So now if I do pear again, now it's in my list. So this is a neat way, like for example, now if I want to add banana, now banana's in the list. So this allows me to search for if I already have it existing. So as soon as I start typing apple, it allows me to pick apple. But if I don't have it in the list, I can just type it right in, and then this will catch it and populate that drop down for me. So that is my last little hack for the day with data validation and drop downs. I'm going to call it quits for today. I'm going to add a link in the description to 2 videos I have on dependent dropdowns. So dependent dropdowns is when you want to select something in one column, and then based on that selection, you want a different variety of options in your second or third columns. And so I have 2 videos on that. One, how to do it without any app script. And it's a cool, neat hack that I discovered. And then another one using app script when needed. So I'll drop a link to those in the description below. Other than that, we're good for today. I hope this helps you to apply and use dropdowns in your own projects. Make sure to check out our other videos for other tutorials on Google Sheets and AppScript. And make sure to like and subscribe. Thanks, and have a great day.